Welcome to class, everyone. Grab a seat, let's get settled. I want you to imagine waking up at sunrise. You're a young dreamer staring out the window, and you suddenly realize that the world you live in is governed by these completely invisible rules. You want good food, a premium house, the latest smartphone, basically everything your neighbors have. And hey, it's human nature. But there's a massive glitch in the universe. Understanding this economic framework, that is your only path forward. So today, we are going to decode that system together. Okay, let's dive right into it. Here is our syllabus for today's introductory masterclass. We're transitioning from abstract dreams of wealth to the structured reality of how the world actually works. We're going to cover 5 core modules today: the glitch of scarcity, markets and the invisible hand, the illusion of money, flawed scoreboards like GDP and inflation, and finally, inequality and human behavior.
All right, starting us off, Module 1, the glitch of scarcity.
You see, our human desires are absolutely unlimited. But here's the fundamental problem we all face. The resources to fulfill those desires are fiercely limited. There are simply not enough premium houses, latest phones, or unlimited bank balances for everyone on Earth. And because desires are unlimited but resources are capped, we are forced to make choices. That brings us to our foundational definition. Economics isn't just about money, guys. It's the study of human choices under pressure. Every single time you choose something, you are paying an invisible price tag. Your time is literally ticking away like a broken clock, and the true opportunity cost of what you chose is whatever you had to give up to get it. Let's look at a quick case study to make this real. Meet Ravi, a 22-year-old student. He has exactly 3 hours tonight. He can either binge watch a new web series with his friends, or he can study for tomorrow's final exam. If he chooses the web series, he permanently sacrifices his exam marks, and this brilliantly illustrates opportunity cost. Even right now, by sitting here watching this explainer, your opportunity cost is the comedy reels you could have been scrolling. You're paying a price every second. I certainly hope this introductory lecture proves worth your time. Moving right along, Module 2, Markets and the Invisible Hand. So how do people survive in a world of scarcity? Well, they trade based on comparative advantage. When individuals trade their unique skills, say a really fast video editor working for a busy corporate employee, they create this invisible web of incentives where everyone is economically useful. Combine that trade with scarcity and boom, you invent a market. Now, what's the most emotional market in India? Onions, for sure. Buyers have a budget, sellers want profit. The magical middle ground is the equilibrium price. But suddenly, Maharashtra rains ruin the crops. The supply absolutely crashes. However, the whole country still desperately needs onions for their pav bhaji. Demand is high, supply is gone, the price skyrockets from 20 to 100 rupees. People are furious. But listen, that 100 rupees is a signal. It tells farmers everywhere to plant onions for maximum profit. The next year, there's a massive oversupply, and the price crashes right back down to 10 rupees. Back in 1776, Adam Smith called this automatic system the invisible hand. There's no dictator controlling it. It operates purely on math, human desire, and desperation. Now let me ask the class a Socratic question. When you take the money you made in that market and put it in a bank, do they actually keep your money safe in a physical vault? Think carefully before you answer. Which brings us to Module 3, the illusion of money. To answer that question, we first need to understand that money itself is purely a medium of trust. The old barter system of trading goods directly was just way too complicated, so humanity invented money. First it was stones, then cowries, gold, paper, and now it's just digital numbers on a screen. Money is purely a shared belief system. Which brings us back to our bank question. The idea that banks are safe locker rooms holding your cash, that is the biggest lie. Banks operate on something called fractional reserve banking. When someone takes out a 1 lakh rupee car loan, the manager doesn't go pull cash from a vault in the back. He just types some numbers on a keyboard and boom, new money is created literally out of thin air. Banks do not hold all the cash they lend out. The terrifying reality here is that if everyone panicked and demanded their money back at the exact same time, the system would collapse entirely. We call this a bank run. It is only government insurance and collective trust that keeps the whole shebang running. So, with all this invisible money floating around and invisible hands guiding our markets, how do we keep score? How do we measure if our country's massive economic framework is actually winning or losing? Let's get into Module 4, flawed scoreboards, specifically GDP and inflation. Economists created this ultimate scoreboard called GDP, Gross Domestic Product. It measures the total market value of all final goods and services produced within a country in a year. You calculate it by adding consumption, investment, government spending, and net exports. Thanks to productivity growth, India now ranks as the fourth largest economy in the world. But this scoreboard has a massive, brutal glitch. Former chief economist Kaushik Basu exposed this flaw perfectly. Consider Meena, a 39-year-old homemaker. She works nonstop from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. She's a professional chef, a home tutor, a nurse for the elderly, and a financial planner all rolled into one. On the open market, that labor is worth thousands of rupees, but she gets zero salary. Therefore, our so-called ultimate scoreboard values her massive human contribution at exactly zero. Meanwhile, if a corporate employee named Amit goes out and buys 500 rupees worth of completely unhealthy junk food, the GDP goes up. The GDP is kind of like a thermometer. It tells you there's a fever, but it hides the actual disease. Now consider a really fascinating concept from former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan, dosa economics. Let's talk about the silent thief called inflation. Amit puts 100 rupees in the bank at a 10% interest rate. Next year, he has 110 rupees. He feels rich, right? But the masala dosa he absolutely loved used to cost 100 rupees. Over that year, inflation, which is caused by too much money chasing the same amount of goods, rose by 12%. Now the dosa cost 112 rupees. Amit's bank balance went up, sure, but inflation secretly left him poorer. He can't even afford his favorite meal anymore. Speaking of silent drains on your wealth, let's talk about taxes. Prepare yourselves for this shock value, guys. In a country of 1.4 billion people, only 2 to 3% actually pay direct progressive income tax. That's the tax where the more you earn, the more you pay. So if only 2 to 3% are paying direct taxes, how on earth does the government fund its flyovers, its hospitals, and the army? Well, they fund it through indirect taxes like GST. Economist Arvind Subramanian pointed out the specific mechanics here, and it's wild. If billionaire Mukesh Ambani buys a 50 rupee packet of namkeen and a daily wage laborer buys that exact same 50 rupee packet, they both pay the exact same tax amount to the government. This is an incredibly regressive system. Relative to his income, that laborer is bearing a staggeringly heavy burden compared to the billionaire. This brings us to our final section, Module 5, Inequality and Human Behavior. This glaring divide naturally transitions us into the labor market and the dark psychological reality of how wages and poverty actually function in the real world, far outside of our neat little textbook formulas. I really want the class to ponder this question. Amit works 10 grueling hours a day for 50,000 rupees a month. The CEO of his company mostly just sits in meetings, yet earns 300 times more than Amit. Does the CEO genuinely work 300 times harder? Does he put in 3,000 hours a day? Of course not. So the crucial point is this harsh truth about capitalism. In this economic system, human beings are treated as commodities. Your salary is strictly based on high supply versus low demand. It is completely determined by how easy it is to replace you. Amit's coding skills? They can be taught to thousands of new graduates tomorrow. High supply means low wages. But a global-level CEO capable of running a billion-dollar company? There is incredibly low supply and high demand for that. That replacement value is exactly what dictates the massive wage gap. But what about the folks at the very bottom? Textbooks always say poor people just need to save and invest. But Nobel laureates Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo proved that completely wrong in their core text, Poor Economics. It is not a lack of hard work. It's a lack of hope. Poverty induces profound biological stress on the human brain. When a desperate laborer finally gets 500 rupees, his stressed brain craves immediate relief, maybe a good meal or an EMI for a TV, rather than a hypothetical long-term return. It's a psychological trap built on trauma. So what system do we actually use to manage all these flaws, traps, and inequalities? Globally, we have 3 macro models. Capitalism drives pure innovation through private ownership, but the clear downside is it creates massive monopolies. Socialism puts the government in full control, aiming for total equality, but as history has shown us, it often kills personal incentive. And then there is India, a mixed economy. It's a highly complex balancing act where giant capitalist forces like Reliance operate in the very same neighborhoods as government-run hospitals. Class, as we bring this lecture to a close today, I want you to remember this profound thought. When dreams are afraid, that is when courage is born. Your journey through this complex, sometimes really painful economic path is a lot like that sunrise we talked about at the very beginning. It takes immense courage to look at the dark, rainy struggles of scarcity, poverty, and inflation and choose to push forward anyway. And I'll leave you with this final warning to think about. Those who don't understand the rules of this economic system will be trapped by it forever, just running in a circle they can't even see. But now you have the blueprint. Step forward into the light, use the knowledge from this explainer, and start navigating your financial reality with your eyes wide open. Class dismissed.